error boundaries is one of like two things that hooks cannot do. You cannot do error boundaries without using classes. So this is actually a pretty critical one, so let's go ahead and take a look at this. So some of these API responses could potentially have errors inside of them, right? We don't control this API, it's coming from a third party, right? So we want to be extra careful with handling errors and handling malformatted data. And so error boundaries are going to allow you to capture some of these errors without crashing your program, right? So I want you to make a new file here called errorboundary.js. Errorboundary.js. And I'm just going to tell you right now, this is mostly code from the docs. I'll just give the react.js.org/docs/error-boundaries.html. Okay, we're going to import React from React. And we're going to import link from @reachRouter. So here I'm going to say class error boundary, another one of those words that looks weird the more you look at it, extends. See, we've been doing react.component, but I'm going to show you just a different way that you could do this. You can also put comma component here, like this, and just say extends component. Works the same way, right? We're just pulling out component. There's no necessarily benefit to doing it this way. You'll just see a lot of people do it this way. Just wanted to show you that. Okay, we're going to say state equals has error of false. Okay, the next thing we're going to write is static get derived state from error. And we're just going to return has error true. Has error true. You could be more sophisticated about how you do this, but we're not going to. And then we're going to say component did catch, that top one there. And we're going to get back the error and the info about the error from that. These are all React methods. And here, all we're going to do is we're going to say console.error, error boundary caught, and error. And then we're just going to log out error and info. But if you had something here like Azure Monitor or Track.js or Sentry or something like that, you would probably just send that off to your consolidated logging service. Okay, and then here we're going to say render, and we're going to say if this.state.hasError, return an h1, and again, you probably would have better UI around this, but we're just going to return h1 that says there was an error with this listing link to equals, and we're just going to have them linked to home. Click here to go back to the home page or wait 5 seconds. So just to give the user a bit of information, is like, hey, there's an error here, just so you know, we're going to redirect you back to the home page. Otherwise, all you're going to do is just pass through all of the components that are coming through, right? So it's just like an error boundary that sits out above a component, and if there's an error, it does something about it. Otherwise, it's a pass-through, right? So you're just going to say return this.props.children. So this.props.children is going to be whatever is contained inside of the component. So for example, we have the link component right here, right? The children, this.props.children of link would be click here, right? It's whatever you put inside of it. Does that make sense? So if I have like a bunch of components inside of it, this.props.children will be all of those components inside of it. Okay? And then last thing, export default error boundary. It's kind of an advanced React use case, right? This is not always going to be useful for you. I don't think the entire time I was working at Netflix we ever used error boundaries. So, this is prettier that's breaking it up this way. So if that looks weird, that's where that's coming from. This is how you can like break it into multiple lines.
So this will catch an error that occurs in any of its children?
Exactly.
Why do we need to return this.props.children?
You always have to return something inside of a render method. So if I have this, there's a potential, right, that this wouldn't return anything, right? Which means it would be basically eating the children. That's a really weird way of saying that, right? But it would not be rendering out the children, right? So it has to pass through, right? It has to take something and then pass it through to the other side. Otherwise, it would just be like, blocking it right there.